Welcome, and away we go. I'll say this quickly but not glibly. All of the same emergency instructions that you heard this morning at convocation still do apply, so not expecting anything, but in the event of anything that will require us to evacuate, you know where the exits are, here, and then at the back. So just keep your awareness there. I would also like to express my appreciation for practicing social distancing in clusters. It's it's a good look. It's a good look. It is a big room, I know. I'm being cheeky. So now the real deal. I want to thank you all for taking the time to be here, being present for this, whether you are online or here in the room. I love the ability to kind of reconnect and people that you haven't seen in such a long time. Let me start by saying this. I'm so proud of FSCJ academics and what you all have done. Cheryl Schmidt's giving it up, and I think that's right. Really, really good. So we're going to continue a little bit with that Know Your Story theme that we had at convocation, but drill down into it just a little bit further and to kind of set that tone and move us in that direction. Dr. Abandano, when I invited him, was happy to come and squeeze in some comments before he runs to his very next. So I'm going to invite him up to the stage. Dr. A. Norm!
No! No, I'm not, Cheryl. I'm not going to live that down at all. Probably a dozen times I've heard that already. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the invitation to be part of your plenary session. So thank you, Dr. Wall. Again, just a couple of things. It's going to be a big year this year. I know we probably say that a lot, but really it's going to be a big year this year. We have a lot on the table for the 2023-24 school year, right? Obviously starting with our accreditation visits, so that's an important part, an extremely critical part of our role and in the life of the college is going through that accreditation process and receiving that reaffirmation as an institution. So that's a big part. I would be remiss if I didn't thank all of you for your roles in helping us reach our enrollment goals for this year. So if you didn't hear me at the last On Point conversation, we finished our summer term, which from a fiscal year standpoint, we do summer, fall, and spring, and then a little bit of the tail end of summer or beginning of summer, and that makes up our fiscal year, if you will. But we finished our summer term up 7.4%. Yeah. We're currently tracking, and again, keep in mind, it's still pretty early. We'll be tracking this until the early part of November, but we're currently tracking about 10% up over, a little over 10% up over last year. And it's funny because I'll get phone calls and I'll get messages and text messages and emails saying, from faculty that saying, hey, it's great that, this is looking good. Keep in mind, enrollment is everybody's job at the college. So whatever you can do to encourage students to continue on here, to help them, be successful. And I always want to put this qualifier on there because sometimes when they hear the president says, help them be successful, it means you've got to lower your standards. That is not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is that we have a wealth of services at our institution to help students be successful. And sometimes it's just connecting our students with what those services are that are available, right? So just doing that alone many times would help. In fact, I was seeing Mary here, I was visiting with some of our Phi Theta Kappa officers this year, and they came up, and even we're talking about the best and the brightest that we have on campus, were telling me that they, in talking with their other student colleagues across the college campuses, they don't know everything that we have going on, right? They don't know that we have programs on financial literacy. They know we have advising because all of them have to kind of go through that, but they may not know we have career counseling. They don't know we have an opportunity to place them in jobs if they're looking for jobs. Obviously they know about financial aid, but some don't even know about the fact that we offer scholarships. So it's just connecting. Sometimes it's just connecting the students with the right offices that we have here. We have 40,000 students. That's a lot, right? So your role in that is helping them connect with the services that we have here. And if you can help them yourself directly, that's great as well. So we have a big year, right? We have SACS accreditation. We're going well in our enrollment right now. I talked earlier about our comprehensive campaign that we're looking forward to doing here. And then the facets of that comprehensive campaign. All of that is being done to do a couple of things. We can tell our story. We will have multiple audiences this year to continue to tell our story. We will have accreditors come here. We will continue to tell our story through commercials and meeting with business and industry and doing a greater job with our high school market and coming to FSCJ, right? We will be able to tell our story, again, to business and industry, but also, as I said earlier, to the philanthropic community that is here, right? I shared with a few people last week. I had the opportunity to be on a panel with my colleagues, the other presidents from JU and UNF and Edward Waters University. And we all know each other really well. And I actually have the opportunity to have breakfast with President Cost and President Lamayam once a month. We get together once a month. And, you know, as presidents can be, we kind of jab each other here and there. It was in fun, in good fun. But at this mayor's program that we met last week, I shared with the mayor a couple of thoughts. Actually, that wasn't the mayor, the mayor's committee on economic development and education. I shared with the mayor's committee these thoughts. I said, if you took my colleagues, they were all sitting to the right of me, if you take my colleagues of JU, UNF, and Edward Waters, you can even throw in Kaiser. You take those institutions, you put them all together, we're still twice as big as all of those numbers. So we're kind of a big deal here in Duval in Nassau County. And what I asked the mayor's office is to support us, right? If they can find $50 million for someone else to come here, they can find a little money for the home team that's already here. Right? So it's our job to tell our story, and know that I will be doing that over the course of this year and the rest of my career here. But it's all of us that tell that story, because I don't see everybody that you see. So when you get that chance, let them know that there's a lot to be proud of in FSCJ, formerly FJC, formerly FCCJ. We are truly in every sector of this community, and I'm proud of that. Proud of the work that all of you do. I really am looking forward to a fantastic school year. There's a lot going on, but it is all moving in the right direction. So I thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your dedication. And I look forward to seeing you all on the campuses in the next couple of weeks. I plan to visit all the campuses and centers with all of you and then all of our students as well. So have a great school year, and thank you.
Y'all know he wants to hear it one more time, so 1, 2, 3. No! We'll try to keep that going. Thank you very much, Dr. A, so much. 6 years ago, when I had the first opportunity to address y'all at an academic plenary, I talked to Dr. John Woodward about coming up and speaking, because every time when we got together at the beginning of the year, it always bothered me that we didn't have representation from our faculty. And I think it is so key and so important. And so I want to thank John for his willingness to do that, his leadership over the years, the transformational stuff he's done with Faculty Senate, and I look forward to his thoughts each and every year. That was, by the way, Dr. John Avendano. This is Dr. John Woodward. Let's give him a nice greeting.
So I have 10 minutes, apparently. Probably won't take that. I think that I do have a slide, or I did recommend a slide with the senators' names. I don't know if we got that. I don't know if I can click. Okay, so first, let's start with these geniuses. At least two of them are geniuses. That would be Cheryl Schmidt and Steve Milchanowski. I'm sure most of you probably know that I'm Faculty Senate President because I've been it for a while now. And hopefully you know, too, that Cheryl Schmidt is the Vice President. Steve Milchanowski is our Secretary. I also wanted to say that Cheryl Schmidt runs the Academic Technology Council or Committee. So if you want to purchase, if you need something in your classroom, technologically, don't ask Cheryl. She's the one who's going to deny you. In fact, no, but that committee, what that committee does is that really does regulate the relationship between us as faculty and the technology that we use, and regulates maybe kind of a hard word there, but we have, you may know, lots of legacy technology that hangs out and that needs updating, and all of this complicated set of relationships that we build between us and the technology we use in the classroom. And to some extent, the Academic Technology Committee is the place to look at how those relationships work. So if you're interested in committee work, and feel free to send Cheryl an email. She's got a spot on that committee, then she would be happy to consider you. Steve Milchanowski is awesome too, and he does pretty much everything else that has to do with Senate. I just show up and I say, hey, senators, and Steve runs everything. So let me give you everybody for per campus, and if you see your name up here and you are surprised, then I may have voluntold you to do something. Hopefully you're not too surprised. So downtown campus, Alicia Bird, thank you, Alicia, for stepping up for doing that. I had to appoint her for that position. Bill Mizell, who has been on Senate for longer than I have, I think, and is one of the great faculty. Will Kaiser, thank you as well. Rick Dunham, I've also had to appoint you. Thank you very much for stepping up and doing that. Deerwood, we have an open seat on Deerwood. Catherine Rifkin is one of the senators. I think that I may have someone to appoint for that position. Let me clarify that if we have elections starting in February. And so look for election announcement this coming February. Possibly the three of us will be up for that election, but we've got some housekeeping stuff we need to talk about before we get to that. But look for elections in February. Sometimes, unfortunately, we don't get enough nominations for a seat. And so that means, according to our bylaws, that I appoint someone for that seat. So I would need to appoint someone for the Deerwood Center seat. I did need to appoint a couple of people for downtown campus. Thankfully, they were available. They stepped up and helped out. If you are interested in serving, you can look for the election time, put your name in the hat for wherever your campus is. But then also feel free to contact me and let me know that you're interested, and I would consider you in any appointments that I would need. You can skip now. Kent campus, Rachel Davis, new senator, I believe. So welcome, thank you. We'll talk soon. Sharon Uskokovich, who has been on Senate before and is now returning to us. Justin Battay has been around for a while. Mark Cregan, thank you for stepping up and volunteering for that seat. Ron Vendelli, thank you for stepping up and volunteering. I think for the third or fourth time, Ron has volunteered for me. Thank you very much. And Halen Washington, who is, I think everybody knows Halen. He is great. So North Campus, we have Stacy Burns, who's been on Senate for a while. Thank you, Stacy. You do so much. and you're also a senator. Really appreciate that. Shep, thank you very much. I think this is your second or third time around. Appreciate it. Diane, thank you as well. And Doug, who's been the third or fourth time now. He's getting addicted to Senate. So I think that's all of our campuses. No, we have South Campus. What am I talking about? Let's see, Pam. I think all of these were elected except for Scott. Thank you for stepping up. Scott, really, really appreciate that. And Monica Brown, both stepped up and offered to be appointed for some seats that were open. But those are your senators. Now, your senators are the ones who bring your interest to us in Senate. What is it that Senate does? Well, Senate runs the entire institution. The president's just a puppet. No, obviously. He's gone now, so I can say that. Well, what we do is we primarily protect your academic interests. And we are the defenders of academic freedom, which is, as you know, quite seriously under threat from people that I can't control. So this is going to be a pretty curious year for us. My recommendation I'm going to give in a minute. Let me talk before that, 2 big projects that Senate is really going to work on this year. One is faculty-student engagement. This is something that we've been working on for more than a year now. And we saw some SESI data that indicated to us that the faculty and the students outside of the classroom were not interacting as much. And we wanted to turn that data around. It actually had been a 10-year decline. It had nothing to do with the pandemic. And I think from some recent information that I've received from Dr. Dumichel that we have begun to turn that around. All of us as an institution, it's not just faculty, obviously. So, but we want to continue to promote that. And what that means is really promoting things like Real Talks by Carrie Roth, or any events that you do on any of the campuses. We would like to see a major academic event on every campus every week. Something for our students to visit, something for them to get engaged with, something for them to think about the material they're doing in class or material they're not doing in class, something to connect with them with the world around them that is rapidly changing, declining, whatever you want to call it. It's changing, that's for sure. And we want to give them the space to think about it openly and freely because we defend academic freedom and open thought and free thought. That's what we do. That's what we model. The second major project is I forgot. What was the other project that we were working on? Civility, yes. We all just suck at each other. I mean, we just was like attack each other all the time. No, not really. But what we did see is that we've had some tensions that have built up, sometimes between us and students, sometimes between students and students, sometimes between us faculty and other faculty. And we want to help the college to get to a point where we all feel comfortable coming to campus. We all want to come to campus. We all love being here and we love being around our colleagues. And we love arguing with each other and not agreeing with each other, because I don't agree with half of you people. And you definitely most likely don't agree with me. And that's what I love about being at an institution of higher education, is that we get to talk about these things. We get to argue our point, and we get to go out for a beer or a cup of coffee, which those packets are empty, and that disappoints me a lot. But anyway, and you know, sit down and get to know each other as human beings again. But that argument is what makes an institution of higher education a core feature of a modern liberal democracy. And that's what we are. We are a democracy. But without the discussion, without the conflict and the resolutions that come along with that, we don't function very well. But this is where we get to teach our students that that's what it means to be a part of a complicated society. So, academic freedom. You have it, and you also have a responsibility to your discipline. You have a responsibility to your accreditors. You have a responsibility to your students. And I'm not going to tell you what to do in your classroom. You get to make that choice. You get to make the choice based on the information that you have, because trust me, that information is just as vague as it feels. There's no clarity right now about what is safe and what isn't. And so everything that goes on in your classroom is between you and your professional responsibility. I strongly encourage you to embrace the power that you have, while you have it, of academic freedom. But it's, again, between you and your professional responsibilities. I will defend you, everybody on Senate will defend you to our dying breath for anything that goes on in your classroom. But sometimes our dying breaths will be not enough. So it's, again, between you and your conscience, you and your professional acumen. And I hate to leave you on a negative note. So welcome back to the college. Welcome back to Florida. It's a great place to be. It's hot, but eventually it won't be that hot. And eventually things will change. You know, these things are always impermanent. The college will be just the same. The college will survive. Everything gets thrown at it because that's what our colleges and universities do. It may take a beating like a big ship on the ocean in a hurricane, but sometimes they'll sink. But mostly, unlike certain colleges that are new, we don't sink. We stick around. Sorry about that. Anyway, thank you very much for your time. I look forward to seeing all of you, working with all of you. I appreciate all of you immensely. And I look forward to all of our conversations in hallways. Thanks again.
I'm not aware of an underground resistance movement, but I'll just mention very quickly, I have an open invitation to come to Faculty Senate on the months that I can make it, which is the majority I do, to dialogue with senators. There's also feedback that goes to the Faculty Exchange of Views that goes up to Dr. Abendano and his ELT. So information does move. I share that with you so that when you see these names in terms of faculty senators, don't just think, oh, those poor people. Understand their role, and they are advocates for you, and they should be a really important linch point of communication. So if you want to know kind of what happened, what went on, or you've got things that you say, hey, get this up either to Senate or through Senate to me, please take advantage of that. And that's one of the things I think Senate is doing very effectively. So thank you for that. Before introducing our next speaker, I want to do just a little bit of picture framing. I did this at the adjunct convocation last week. Rarely am I asked to represent a slide, but somebody came and said, hey, could you do this at convocation because I found it helpful and maybe others will as well. We're talking a lot now today, you've noticed, about SACs. And when we think about SACs, of course, we think about accreditation, and we are fully accredited in good standing. And so as we go through this next year, sometimes people will use the language of being reaccredited. We're not getting reaccredited because we already are accredited. The thing that's actually happening is a reaffirmation where we say, hey, we've been in good standing. Here's what we've been up to lately. And the idea is that SAC's Commission on Colleges will say, we agree with you on those things, carry on for another 10 years. As we go through that process then, we have to submit very early on some information. And then we have a dialogue, and we're actively having that dialogue right now. So there's a lot of focus on the visit. But what I want to do by way of framing is just give you a little bit of a quick background of the process via these cool icons I found. So the first line is meant to denote FSCJ, right? So there's the notion of the college, the building, the teaching that we do, which is really, that's the engine, right? That's what we're about. What happens with reaffirmation is the first thing we do is we get together and we put together a big report. And that big report, the official name of it is a compliance certificate. So there are people around the college who participated in writing the compliance certificate. And that is really heavy work because you get standards, and then with those standards come, here's the kind of evidence that we need to see. And then you end up writing about it. And then you say, here's a document at the college that shows what I've just told you, and you have to do all this linking to it, et cetera. It's a really large and arduous process. So we completed our compliance certificate. We sent it in, so that next one with the nice lady right there, that's meant to represent SACs. So SACs receives it, and there are teams at SACs. They are peers of ours. So we have people from our school who work on accreditations or reaffirmations at other schools. They're parts of teams that go. And then we're gonna have people from other colleges come here, and that group has already been assembled, and they look at our compliance certificate when we send it in. So we've done that, and then we got the feedback from the compliance certificate. And there are 8 areas among all the standards that we need to address. You don't get perfect scores on your first draft when you turn those things in. Dr. Dumichel has told me that the average number of things that come up after you submit that compliance certificate, I think he said is 13, so we've landed on the right side of that. And what's happening right now is we're writing a response back to the feedback that we received from SACs and that committee. So it comes back from SACS back to FSCJ, and then right now we're working on our response. And so my red line right there is meant to denote exactly where in the process we are. I think it is September 11th that response has to be sent out. We'll get it there a little bit early, I promise, Dr. DiMichele. September 11th, that response will come back. It goes back to that committee, and then those 3 people right there, that's the idea in October. They're coming. They're coming. We're going to house them during their work days right here at South Campus, but they're going to be all around the college. So they will take visits to campus. We're going to tour them, show them some highlights. They are going to do interviews because they're going to want to follow up on different things, all kinds of different things. But what they do is based on that prior exchange of a compliance certificate, then the information we got back, what we resubmitted to them, they continue to narrow down to what are the things we really want to focus on. So we'll have an idea of the things that we want to focus on. One of the things that we'll do while they're here is we will also talk to them about our Quality Enhancement Plan, or QEP. And the name of our Quality Enhancement Plan this year, I cannot remember, is, oh, thank you. All right, so it's growing, we're learning. And after they're done, they go back, they give what their final outcome is, and then in 2024, in June, it goes to the big SACS board, and that is where we are looking to get our stamp back on. So that's in a nutshell, what the large part of the process is. So with that as a little bit of framing, I want to invite Karen Acevedo up because she is our new QEP director. And Karen, yeah, she deserves that woo and more. I want to say publicly, and I've gotten to say it to you privately, for all of you that have been through what we've done with assessment over years and years and years, it was an area of the college we could not get traction. We could not get traction. And Dr. Deb Fontaine and Karen Acevedo, they were a dynamic duo in terms of helping us get traction. So miles to go, but we're doing much better and high quality work in assessment. Karen has been a really big part of that. So with that, I have every confidence in her capacity to move our QEP forward in a very organized, highly communicative, and helpful way. So please welcome Karen. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wall. I will be sending you your money just a little bit later. Hello again, everyone. So by now you've heard a little bit about Quest, and I'm hoping that you really do want to hear a little bit more. But not just that, I want to make sure that you are ready to be an advocate and a champion for the improvement plan moving forward. Make sure I've got this right. Maybe? All right, so earlier I mentioned that the QEP really includes 2 institutional goals. We're looking to increase productive grade rates and reduce withdrawal rates in asynchronous online courses. So to achieve these goals, we will be implementing strategies that really focus both on student readiness and faculty support. First, we want to ensure that our students have both the technological and the soft skills necessary to be successful and complete an online course. The students are going to be completing 3 Canvas modules. We talked about that earlier as well. And those modules are really going to assess their readiness in computer literacy, digital literacy, motivation for e-learning, self-directed learning, and learner control. The modules aren't teaching the students anything. They're really set up to be more of an online orientation for the students. Quest is also going to be supporting our faculty as they plan the design and the delivery of their online courses through an updated professional learning course. So PD 1896, Quest Quality E-Learning Strategies, is a cohort-based 6-week professional learning course that was developed to support new asynchronous online faculty as they plan and design the delivery of their online course. There are 6 modules, and it begins with a live kickoff meeting in week 1 and culminates with a course showcase in week 6. Some of the outcomes include explaining how you would build rapport with student introductions, creating a course orientation video, and identifying strategies to support struggling students. Our faculty are not doing this on their own. The course includes a consultation with an instructional designer and partnership with a faculty mentor. So right now, we are in the pilot year of Quest, and we're really looking for faculty to voluntarily enroll in the course. Feedback from the participants and the mentors will be used to revise the modules and implement necessary changes as we move to full implementation in year 2. I know I mentioned this earlier, and I'm probably going to say it multiple times. There is an incentive for both full-time and adjunct faculty who complete the course. So while I'm really thankful that I get to share all this information with Quest about you, with you, I really want to take some time to acknowledge and thank the wonderful individuals who really put quite a bit of work into bringing this professional development course to life. So as you can see, the course was developed by faculty with guidance and input for faculty with guidance and input from your peers. And lastly, I want to congratulate the completers of the first cohort of PD 1896 and thank the mentors who provided them with the support and the direction throughout the course. So thank you all for your commitment to improving student success in online courses and doing everything possible to help move this process along. I really do look forward to sharing more information with you about Quest as we move forward. Thank you.
Karen, thank you so very much. Just one word from me on this, which is I want to make sure we get the right framing to you all. The focus of this and the committee that developed it is not there's, an inherent problem with online education and we've got, we're getting out our bats and we're going to go beat that around the head for a while. We understand, right? We all understand that if you're in the teaching game, even if you're in face-to-face, the capacity to work digitally is just becoming part of what it means to be effective and the way that we are able to deliver and some people want to receive that information. And so this is really about recognizing some of the things that we need to just look into and discuss and address in order to get there. So this is not something that is, designed, just throw it at people and be done. Dialogue is going to occur. Dialogue has already happened on this, and thank you to all who have participated, and especially the faculty that went through the pilot. But this is a long-term project that's going to need continued input on this. So what we're asking for is, you're in the classroom, you see things that are going on. You might be at a conference or reading things that are happening. Bring that back to the conversation because we really want this project to have a really living sense to it and really just make us better in terms of what we're doing with teaching and learning. Karen, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the work there. So about 6 years ago, Dr. Mark Bosey came to lead training and organizational development for FSCJ. Yeah, that's a good one, right? And as a part of that, we established the Faculty Academy. And with the Faculty Academy, you'll remember last year we honored Susan Slavitz because I had tapped her on the shoulder and she was not looking forward to being tapped on the shoulder. And she took some time to lead that. But there's that notion of sustainability. And for Susan, besides being a committed faculty member, she was also somebody that I knew was respected by the faculty. And I thought that is, really, really important. And as Susan then stepped out of that role and we looked at sustainability, here's the beautiful thing. The person who directs our Faculty Academy right now is not only highly respected by the faculty and everyone, she's also naturally innovative. And so she's right at home in this role. And so to talk to you just a little bit about where we're going with faculty professional development this year, please help me welcome Dr. Audrey Ante.
That was the best introduction I think I've ever had. That was really great. I loved that. I appreciate that. I hope I'm well respected. So I wanted to figure out how to advance the slide. There. Hold it up high. Oh, hold it up high and go forward, not back. For how innovative I am. It's got like arrows on it that have little dots, so it's not like a clear arrow. I'm just explaining. So our Academy for Teaching and Learning has 7 members on our committee in addition to the director, and so excited to have this group of people who are all extremely innovative and forward-thinking and very happy to tell me what they feel like faculty may want or may need. And I'm also extremely excited that 2 of them are on Faculty Senate. because I think that's really great. I love that they're going to be connected in that way as well. And so I wanted to just kind of bring this up, although I saw Kathleen is going to be talking about this too. So just like this was not planned, what a perfect just kind of like leading into a conversation about artificial intelligence. And I know that in the last maybe year, maybe a little bit less, a lot of us have started having this conversation. I was sort of blindsided. I remember in January with this big article that got a lot of push from the Chronicle of Higher Ed, like, is the college essay dead? And I'm English faculty, so I was like, I mean, what's the context here? It's been struggling along for quite a while, but that was alarming to me. And then ChatGPT got its little extra boost, and now educators are scrambling to sort of figure out, like, what do we do? How do we ensure that our students are still meeting the outcomes that they need to meet? How do we actually show them how to use this, since probably the future of jobs in a lot of ways is going to require them to understand AI? So I thought it would be an interesting question to pose to us, a group of faculty. Do you have an AI policy? I had one in my syllabus this summer. Some of your departments may have already started having conversations about this. I know the English department certainly has. But as you know, we all have academic freedom. So the way that I may decide to incorporate or not incorporate AI may be very different from the way that another faculty member wants to or not to incorporate AI. And so I remembered getting these really great just kind of policy template suggestions from Scott Kaysen, who is one of our Academy members. And he had done some research and talked to some different people. You may have seen these floating around. I'm hoping that we can add these to our Academy website. But there are different variations of these. And I know you can't see everything because it's probably really small, especially if you're sitting in the back. But if the PowerPoint goes out to everyone, you would be able to look at them there as well. But the first one is for emphasizing personal growth over AI use. So if you want to kind of present to your students this idea that, your ideas are what I need from this class. In order for you to be successful, in order for you to show that you understand our materials, you need to have your own writing, and that's kind of what we're going to rely on. So it indicates that in the event that AI is used, students should anticipate revising their work. Your language may be different to demonstrate authentic learning, or repeated misuse may necessitate withdrawal for the course. Mine's not as nice, Scott, if you're here. Mine says probably you're going to fail. So I mean, because I have a little bit of a slightly stricter policy, but mine has worked pretty effectively. And then this is a different version of an AI policy, where it's balancing AI use with personal integrity. So maybe a broader kind of exploration of AI as a co-author, where, it can be used for certain designated purposes, but where a student perhaps exceeds what those specific purposes were supposed to be in the class, then they can be maybe at risk of losing points, or misuse of AI could result in the need to withdraw. So a more balanced approach, like maybe you'll use AI for certain things that I have planned in my class, but there are other things that you should not anticipate using AI for, and these are potentially the consequences if you misuse artificial intelligence. And then the progressive kind of AI use policy. And I've had some really interesting conversations with people from different areas. So you may be wondering, like, really, does anybody have an AI policy like this? And the answer is yes. There are some people who anticipate in their field, who teach in some of those bachelor's programs, that their students, when they get into their career of choice, may be asked to kind of rely on AI for certain things. And so this one kind of indicates more that you will be incorporating AI as a tool into your learning, as techniques for helping you become better at researching, better at problem solving, better at creative expression. But we do still expect students to maintain a spirit of academic integrity, giving credit where it's due and adhering to the ethical principles of our academic community. So it's this really kind of complex kind of tool that's out there now. And I think this is probably pretty common of technology. Like, I don't always think about the ways in which it's disruptive. Maybe that's my natural innovation or whatever. But it's making a big impact on a lot of different fields, and higher ed most certainly. We have tools to try to guide students into using it responsibly, like Turnitin now has an AI detector, but I caution you that it is not 100% reliable or effective. And so those conversations are going to be a little bit harder than saying, look, I can see that you copied and pasted this information from this source when you were supposed to write it on your own. I have had 2 students this past summer use AI to write essays. One of them, I wasn't even sure I was going to bring it up to him, but I noticed some funny things in his paper. And as soon as I reached out to them in a way that was more like, I really want to talk to you about this because this is what I see, and I kind of want to know your story. Like, I want to know what your experience was in writing this paper. And both of them confessed, like took responsibility, ownership for what they had done. But it's going to just be harder because students are going to become slightly more accustomed to using it. Technology is going to start becoming like even better. I mean, and I really think my students were probably still just using Chat GPT, the 3 edition, as opposed to the crazy 4 edition. And they weren't using it like, not to say that I would want to teach a student how to cheat better, but they weren't using it very smartly, right? And I think that it's important that we guide them, and when it's appropriate, when it's not appropriate. And I think we also need to start thinking about the impact that it's going to have on our field. It's so much easier to develop a class with a variety of lessons, a variety of different ways to help students learn maybe vocabulary terms or cases or scenarios if we can use AI. I can't remember if I found the tool or if somebody else found the tool, Janiyah Jones, but there is a tool that I used over the summer for one of my classes where I had an open educational resource textbook. I would feed chapters of the textbook through the AI, and it generated for me, for my students, a list of vocabulary words. It turned those into flashcards. It made puzzles. So if I wanted the students just to have like some opportunities to study a little bit differently, they could have done a crossword puzzle. It would have taken me hours, if not potentially days, to make some of that content. And so I don't use it as something that's graded for students, but I love it as a resource to say to them, yes, you have the book chapter that you need to read this week, but also you have this list of vocabulary. You have these flashcards you can use. You can try this crossword puzzle, so that they have their own kind of different ways of practicing and learning if they want. And that's just one example. Like, there are so many things out there now that can make generating scripts for videos easier. If you wanted to create like a video, but you're having trouble writing out the script yourself, we're still the experts in our field. I do not feel as though it's cheating for me to use an AI tool to help me develop supports for students, although I don't know, maybe that conversation will come up with my supervisor. If it does, I'm ready. But I just think that if we haven't started having those conversations, and I think many of you have, this year needs to be the year that we think about how we're going to present that to our students, how we want or don't want to use it ourselves. And keep an open mind as well as listening to other people, because the way that AI affects me in teaching, maybe freshman composition may be very different from the way AI affects someone teaching in a different field, teaching in business or, teaching in legal studies. So just food for thought. And then I have to plug our upcoming AI Pedagogy Certificate. Some of you have already taken some courses within this certificate. We started building it and offering it over the spring term. We have some amazing facilitators who have done some really deep dives about the different ways that this technology can be used. So we are planning to offer these again. We have a few additional ones that are still in process. I think we have 2 left that we're trying to build. And I urge you to look for the emails about this so that you can take advantage and sign up if you would like to, if you're interested. But some of the conversations that we have with faculty in these trainings about like how they're using it or not using it, or the questions that they have, just make me think about all the different things that I don't know that people are like, the way that they're incorporating it or the way that they're talking to their students about it. And so it's a really good opportunity for us to share cross disciplines as well about like how this is affecting us and what we want to do about it. And I can't help but plug one more time, like Karen is fabulous and did an amazing job. Our PD 1896 quality e-learning strategies for Quest. And I do want to say this too about the student modules, because I think I should have done this for our faculty as well. Our student modules are written in such a way so that it does feel to them as though they are a hero going on a journey. Or they're not a hero yet. They're like the budding hero going on a journey. One of the modules even presents information to them as though they were, a young Padawan, aspiring Jedi. There's a nice little note from Yoda about the importance of academic honesty. And I wish now that I had done that for our faculty modules, yet I am sorry, our faculty modules are not built that way. I did just want to show you some of the course learning outcomes that we have for that training. And I do also want to emphasize, so this isn't just for those of you who have a blank slate. Like if you do want to build your course from the ground up, we want to support you in doing that. But this is also for anyone who maybe teaches from master course shells through the Center for E-Learning. If you want to look for opportunities to offer more of yourself in that course, making that really rich and authentic introduction to your students, looking at, what technology is available to you to leverage within that course, within the content that's already there, as well as people who maybe just want to refresh their class. So you have your class, you've built your class, maybe you want to try and think about, well, my discussions just really feel kind of flat. What else is there? Like what's available? Some of the learning outcomes are probably things that you're already a little bit familiar with, but it doesn't hurt for us to kind of see, well, what is out there now? Like, what's the new research about this? AI, in a big way, is impacting higher ed as well, so there's definitely a snippet about AI in one of the modules. And the live meetings that we have with faculty, again, really great conversations about what regular and substantive interaction means, about what it means to humanize a course, and to what extent we can do that and still hold students accountable to specific policies. So I do encourage you to think about, if you want to take this, where it maybe would fit into your schedule. You do get 12 hours towards the 1% because it is a 6-week-long class, and that's kind of what we anticipated a newer faculty member might spend going through the class. We also, though, just for those of you who might want to be eligible to teach online who aren't already eligible, know that our CBA does include an option to test out. And so we will have a challenge out option where we can just ask to see a course showcase. We have instructions for that. So if you want to teach online, you aren't already eligible to teach online, and you're interested in either signing up for the full workshop or doing the challenge out, please feel free to email the Academy. And then I have to bring this up because this blew my mind. So I'm on the QEP steering committee, and I was teaching this summer. This message went out to all of us on July 5th. I'm just curious, show of hands, who remember seeing it? Some administrators and a couple of faculty and Dr. Wall. So this blew right by me. Like I even knew that they were planning to send it. And I just it came from academic operations, and I was just kind of like, oh, message from academic operations, and went about my life answering student emails, grading, whatever. But this was an invitation for faculty to encourage students to sign up for our online modules for them, as well as to let faculty know that we were going to be piloting the Quest for faculty. please keep an eye out. If this is something that you are interested in participating in or that you think your students need, any one of you who teaches asynchronous online classes, I know that you know your students probably need this. Please look out for messaging about Quest. And, when we are inviting you to maybe refer your students or to encourage your students to take it, please do encourage them to do it. It is kind of, they can test out, so they can take pre-test so that they don't have to necessarily do each module. So it can be really quick for those students who are already familiar and comfortable with navigating online. But I feel strongly that a lot of them need the reminder that these are important things. Managing your time is important. We're not going to tell you that you have to prove that you can manage your time by the end of those modules, but we know that you're going to be aware that it's important and something that you should keep in mind if you want to take online classes. You need to be motivated to finish. You need to understand that feedback is important, and you need to look at your feedback from your professor. You need to know a little bit about navigating Canvas if you're taking an online class. So a lot of those things are components that probably all of our students need, not just the online students. But I hope that you'll keep an eye out for those messages. I'm going to try to do better too. I'm going to try to do better too, to see them. And then just a few important dates. We have the Science Symposium coming up in October 27th. We also have, it's slightly out of order because I'm not great at putting images in the right places. The International Education Conference, which is mentioned at the bottom, is coming up in November. We have our Professional Development Day, our Math Conference in January, and Faculty Focus Day. You can go ahead and put these on your calendars now. I'll wait. Take out your phone, go ahead, add it to your calendar. But I really hope that you'll join us. The Science Symposium sessions, Professional Development Day, Math Conference, Faculty Focus Day, and International Education Conference all typically have opportunities to earn additional hours towards the 1%, but I know that's not why you go. I know it's because you get to see some really interesting presentations from our colleagues and from people outside of the college. But I hope that these are on your radar so that you can come and join us and participate with us. And then anytime you want to contact us, our email is academy@fscj.edu. I'm using like the royal we and us, and like anytime you want to contact the academy or me, you can email academy@fscj.edu. And also, don't forget, if you want to travel, please apply for funds early. So even if you're not planning to travel until March, you can request the funds today on our application on the Academy website. I think that's it. I think I got all the important stuff. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Audrey. I think y'all have yourself a good director. She's certainly committed. If you're not tied into what the Academy is doing, please make sure you get there. It's fantastic in terms of resources, professional development, travel, the 1%, et cetera. Had a conversation with somebody a couple of weeks ago, the regular, how was summer, what's coming up. The conversation drifted a little bit to AI, and the person said, oh, I'm so tired of hearing about AI. So I said, I guess it was a dispensation, don't come to Plenary. Because one of the things Audrey said is the reality we need to confront, which is the size of this. It's a really, really big and tremendous issue. So as it unfolded kind of in my world and raised my awareness to a higher degree, the tone of most of the conversations is like, oh my gosh, how do we pull up the bridge from the moats, and get, how do we insulate ourselves from the cheating? But then Audrey, I think she did a really nice job of talking about some of the balance that there's in there. It also provides a way to go with opportunity. So to extend on and expand on where the Academy is going here, we are going to have a year-long college-wide conversation about AI that will manifest itself in different forms. In just a minute, I'm going to ask Dr. Kathleen Seesvols to come up, and she's going to, as part of her talk, I'm sure, share a little anecdote that she shared with me during one of our regular one-on-ones, and it was really instructive for me. And then I asked her to work on leading this college-wide conversation over the next year, to coordinate it, to envision it, to work with all of you to see what direction it needs to go. And my reason for that is multifaceted. Kathleen is highly organized. She moves a project. She's going to be on it, et cetera. I'm going to tell you something. I'll embarrass her because it's something I want to live up to professionally. Every year, she picks a topic for her own professional development and reads on it. So I already know she's diving into the literature. She's a model of a research practitioner. A lot of people have a breadth of command. A lot of people have a depth of command, but when you want to get both, at our institution, I know one of the very best is Dr. Kathleen Seaswell. So if you'll continue this conversation, thanks, Kathleen.
Good afternoon, colleagues, and thank you for the opportunity to reflect with you today on humanizing teaching and learning in the age of AI. If we could transition, please, Dr. Wall. Professor Ethan Mullick at the University of Pennsylvania offers cautionary words with which to start the fall semester here and across the nation. He says to us that not enough educators, and looking across the P through 20 educational continuum, he adds parenthetically, parents as well, are preparing for the homework apocalypse that is coming this fall as AI becomes ubiquitous among students. Indeed, with the advent of ChatGPT and other generative platforms, fall is going to be different, very different, and we as educators need to get ready. Transition, please. Throughout my 31 years in higher education, I try when I can to teach a class a semester. It keeps me connected to the students, you as faculty, and to the profession. And I was fortunate this summer to teach ENC 1101, English Composition 1, at the Deerwood Center. The second paper that the students were asked to write was what I call a descriptive photo essay. They were to select a significant person, place, or object in their lives and to reflect on the meaning of that selected subject, the impact that that being or entity has had on them, and to include a photo in their piece. Colleagues, I soon discovered upon reading that batch of essays nearly flawless prose, something I do not regularly see in these many years of teaching. There was not, fellow English faculty, a pronoun antecedent agreement error to be had, nor a subject-verb agreement error, nor a comma splice. And those comma splices, as we all well know, riddle many a student's paper. I noticed, too, I'm looking at Professor Houston and Professor Hess, recurring uses of present and past participial phrases and absolute phrases, a construction that we typically don't see in that's right, Professor Houston in ENC 1101. Bereft were those papers, and there were 5 in my class of 20, of specific concrete examples that added that unique thing we call humanity. And so I decided to talk with those 5 students individually, as others have done, and as Dr. Ante shared. And 201, as students are wont to do, they admitted I use ChatGPT. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. While the conversations provided a teachable moment for the students, they also left me feeling somewhat dismayed. Dr. Wall, if we could transition. Some of you will recognize that defeated world chess champion who lost to the powerful Deep Blue computer in 1997, all those years ago. Why did I feel a bit defeated in my ENC 1101 class? It's because I know from years of experience just how challenging it is to write a really strong essay, if that's 500 to 750 words or 5,000 or more. And because I know so many of those other students worked diligently, they spent hours on their piece. And their piece was far from perfect, but it was theirs. It seemed to me that if I were having this experience, an adjunct teaching one class in the summer semester, what must it be like for my colleagues who are teaching far more classes across the disciplines? And what could I do to be of help and support in this evolving and advancing conversation? Next slide, please. I thought that perhaps talking to the class as a whole would be instructive and engaging them in a dialogue about academic integrity, honesty, responsibility. And so in consultation with Professor Jones, with our colleague in curriculum, Aisha Golden, I developed an activity called Spot the Bot. And what this activity was for the students was an exercise in which they worked in pairs or groups of 3 to see if they could spot an AI-generated essay that I elicited from ChatGPT 3.5 by entering the prompt I had planned to use for my students' next assignment. Dr. Wall, if we could transition again. On the screen, colleagues, is the prompt, and it's a reflective piece about the way in which our lives have been changed by the COVID-19 pandemic, if at all. And the students are asked not only to explicate, but to illustrate with concrete, specific examples. The assignment has been relatively successful over the past few semesters. But once again, to my dismay, when I used OpenAI, I discovered that the engine was able to produce a nearly flawless piece in under 60 seconds. Under 60 seconds. And ChatGPT 4.0, as Dr. Andy has already spoken to, is so advanced in terms of its large language modeling that the existing AI detection tools are not likely to distinguish between human and AI-generated prose. Colleagues, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see the sample student essays, but Dr. Wall, if we could kindly transition. Probably the font, and I apologize, is a bit too small for most of you to read. This is sample essay number 1. I anonymized it and put the name Chris Doe as the student. And perhaps I could just read a sentence or two so you can hear the language. And then I'm going to ask you, as you compare essay 1 to essay 2 with me momentarily, if you can spot the bot, even with just a limited sample of writing. So this piece is titled, "The Least Funny Joke Ever Told." For me, the student, and we'll put that in quotation marks for now, writes, "The whole pandemic started as a kind of joke. Those of us who remembered previous outbreaks such as swine flu, bird flu, or Ebola all rolled our eyes. Oh, great, we joked. Another world-ending zombie apocalypse to fill the slow news cycle. And we'll pause there with Dr. Wall's gracious help if we could transition to the next slide. Colleagues, this is the second sample piece that I shared in the Spot the Bot activity with my students this past summer term. And this title is Navigating the Unforeseen, Life's Transformations Amidst the Pandemic. It reads as follows. The emergence of the global pandemic, COVID-19, in March 2020 brought about unprecedented changes touching every aspect of human life. Over the past 3 years, my personal, academic, and professional spheres have undergone profound transformations. Let us pause there and transition to the next slide in the interest of time. And with that limited sample, you're seeing only 2 sentences excerpted from each piece. Colleagues, by show of hands, which of the 2 do you believe, sample 1 or sample 2, was AI generated? Sample 1, if you think sample 1 was created by the bot, you've raised your hands. If you think sample 2 was bot generated, could you raise your hands? Colleagues, we're seeing about a 50-50 split. And what that tells us among a group of highly educated professionals is just how sophisticated that language model is. The first piece was written by one of my highly dedicated students in the fall of 2021, human created. The second one was produced by ChatGPT 3.5 on July 2nd of this summer when I entered the prompt. It gives us profound pause. That's right, Dr. James, exactly so. So you can see that just to Dr. Ante's point, a conversation is needed at the classroom level, the discipline level, and the institutional one. We turn to the next slide and explore the question, is AI a win or a loss for teaching and learning? Is it an academic assistant or adversary? Is it a learning companion or a competitor to that which is deep, meaningful, and authentic learning? To explore that question, and I enter the conversation. Next slide, please, Dr. Wall, thank you. As many others, as a learner, I don't have all the answers, but I am keenly interested in the question, what is AI anyway? We've been reading about various terms. No doubt you've seen them in the literature as well. Algorithms, machine learning, large language models, semantic analysis. But what does this mean precisely across multiple sectors, business, industry, government, and for us, education in particular? On the next slide, please. We see several different definitions, and we could have filled an entire presentation on the varying definitions upon the survey of literature, which in itself invites a question and compels us to examine what is a fast evolving and advancing field. One of the areas to be aware of is that AI is a term dating back to the mid-20th century, coined originally by computer scientist John McCarthy. And that among the many nuanced definitions, there's a key distinction between that which is narrow AI and that which is general, the former being designated for specific, discrete, and concrete tasks, and the latter for more general and transferable ones that are likely to mimic human thinking and human function. So too another perspective comes in the third area on our screen from a team of University of Florida professors and administrators who have embraced AI across the curriculum as the focus of their 5-year quality enhancement plan. And Professor Southworth and colleagues have defined AI not simply as a set of tools that can be considered in isolation, perhaps a more narrowed definition, but rather a comprehensive set of skills or approaches for transdisciplinary inquiry, encompassing, further quoted, the full life experience and education of a learner. On the next slide, as we contemplate these definitions as a mere starting point, we see a number of different popular AI engines noted, as well as detection tools. And here again, this represents but an abbreviated list, for the options out there are expanding virtually every day. On the next slide, please. I would love to, for a moment, gauge the room by asking you whether you are a professor, a dean, or perhaps serving in another role. How do you feel about students' use of AI, particularly in classes? This survey question was adapted from the Pew Research Center, so it really paints a broad qualitative brushstroke. Colleagues, is it fair to say that you feel more excited than concerned? That you feel, alternatively, more concerned than excited, or that perhaps you feel equally concerned and excited? Show of hands if you feel more excited about AI than concerned at this point. And I invite you to look around the room, colleagues, so that you too are gauging a sense of how your colleagues feel. More excited than concerned. Hands down, please. More concerned than excited. And colleagues, if you could once again look around the room just to see, as you read the room, where your colleagues are. Seeing a lot of hands go up. You're more concerned than excited. Equally concerned and excited. Both optimistic, but reservedly so. Quite a few hands went up there as well. And thank you for allowing us to read your thoughts about the topic. On the next slide, we offer, if you will, an addition and a complement to what Dr. Ante had shared. Although I had an AI policy embedded into my academic honesty piece within the syllabus, I learned quickly this summer that I need to consider, reflect further, and revise as I prepare to teach ENC 1101C in the fall. And colleagues, the field is recognizing, as Dr. Ante again elucidated, 3 categorical approaches to AI. So you'll see an enthusiastic approach. This group feels more excited than concerned. A restrictive approach. This group may feel significantly more concerned than excited. And a balanced one, in terms of equal measures, perhaps, of enthusiasm and concern. The language here, as what Dr. Ante had shared, could be incorporated, adapted as you choose into your syllabus so that you convey to students your current, if evolving as well, orientation to AI, no matter your discipline. And as we transition further, we ask a question that piggybacks on the one from a moment ago. At present, would you indeed characterize your thinking about AI as A, enthusiastic, B, restrictive, or C, balanced? Once again, by show of hands, enthusiastic about AI. Restrictive. You need to study, observe more before you have that sense of professional comfort. Alternatively, balanced. Current orientation. And thank you, colleagues. It's very helpful to see where you might stand or orient at the moment. As we transition to this slide, I'd love to focus once again on the last frame. These are reflections, voices from the field that provide further insight into this ever-evolving question and field. One comes from a scholar practitioner, Slauson, who recently noted that as this technology grows increasingly ubiquitous, establishing ethical AI literacy emerges as an important responsibility for institutions and, if I may add, individual educators. Example policies like that viewed momentarily ago are a starting point for what Slauson terms an essential conversation about guiding the next generation of AI users. And it is that selection of terms, colleagues, that I wish to underscore. An essential conversation. Thoughts today are merely the start of what I hope will become an ongoing essential dialogue with you, the faculty and staff of our college. As we transition a little bit further, I do wish to note again that some of our Florida post-secondary sister institutions have embarked upon and embraced AI. UF, as noted previously, has chosen AI across the curriculum, especially for undergraduates, as its 5-year QEP focus, and has likewise established an AI2 center. Miami-Dade College has similarly established an AI center and is the first Florida college system institution to launch an Associate in Applied Science in AI and Technical Certificate in the field with a forthcoming Bachelor of Applied Science in AI. In fact, our own BCTE division, under the leadership of Dr. Sherry Litt and Dr. Doug Brower in the IT area, have conducted a site visit to learn more about the Miami-Dade College model and are envisioning, with the expertise of our faculty, possibly creating an Associate in Science or Applied Science AI degree as well. What courses, might you ask, would comprise such a curriculum? And they will include an introduction to AI ethics, Python programming, which some of our professors are already teaching, large language modeling, natural language processing, among several others. Colleagues, the center at Miami-Dade College also encompasses resources for faculty and staff, ongoing professional development, similar to the framework that our Academy for Teaching and Learning has so foresightfully developed in terms of the AI and Pedagogy Certificate, and likewise allocated grant resources for faculty to submit proposals involving AI equipment, software, and special projects that they conduct with students and with business and industry partners. If we look a little bit further, and of course, Dr. Wall, I'll be respectful of our limited time, there are several learning resources and opportunities that may be of use to you. Here I speak primarily to our faculty, as our fall term will start in just a few short days. Of the resources displayed here, please allow me to call to your attention that our own faculty librarian, Leah Kaysen, who teaches at the Deerwood Center, has developed a library guide titled Artificial Intelligence. There are resources for both students and faculty about the responsible and ethical as well as innovative use of AI. Among the resources is a set of direct links to the APA, CMS, and MLA style guides for citing AI-generated sources. And I found that very instructive in terms of the work I anticipate for the fall term with my ENC 1101C students, that the major style guides already have a documentation model both for in-text as well as end documentation on the references or works cited page to guide ethical practice. And likewise, colleagues, on September 24th and 25th, the University of Central Florida will host an inaugural statewide and perhaps nationwide conference on teaching and learning with AI in higher education. It looks like a very informative and engaging set of dialogues that we may be able to participate in. As we transition to the next and final slides, thank you, Dr. Wall. Were we to take just a moment to envision an essential conversation in AI, there are many facets that come to mind. Dr. Wall invited initial reflection, and I certainly welcome collaboration and ongoing dialogue with you, again, our faculty and staff. But perhaps a place to start, as Dr. Avendano had already alluded to, is with a presidential town hall so that we might engage the voices of regional colleges and universities in terms of their thoughts, their concerns, their visions, their caveats for AI at their respective institutions. And likewise, might we not form an AI community of practice so that interested, excited, and concerned colleagues alike can engage in that dialogue about how we can shape the generational use of AI while preserving the academic integrity of our fine institution. On the next slide, with Dr. Wall's assistance, if I may just call to your attention that I too see ahead for us an imperative need to establish an AI academic integrity policy, as Dr. Ante had alluded to, that we have something of a manifesto or creed that we develop and of course would respect and rely upon the expertise of our faculty senate, as Dr. Woodward had spoken of earlier, among other colleagues who are as well invested in this critical conversation. As I was reading about AI, a text came to my attention, and on this, I will gladly close. And the text is called Relationship-Rich Education. It reminds us that at the heart of every successful student, and dare we say human being, is a constellation of human connections. We need only think of Malcolm Gladwell's work on outliers to see evidence of that premise. And so too, as we respond to, prepare for teaching and learning in the age of AI, might we continue to find ways to humanize that which is education, both here at FSCJ and elsewhere across the profession. Part of the answer in doing so may lie in an ongoing, essential conversation for our faculty and staff and for our students. Thank you, colleagues. And thank you, Dr. Wall.
Dr. Seesvols, thank you so very much. It's at Academic Plenary, the deepest dive we've ever taken in a content kind of area. But I think that it is important, so we will have sustained efforts this year. I want to jump back. I watched the Republican debate last night. There was a lot of hand raising there as well, if you saw it. And I want to ask you, by show of hands, that conference in Orlando, Teaching and Learning with AI, hosted by UCF, September 24th to 25th. How many of you would possibly have an interest in attending something like that? Okay. Okay, thank you, thank you. All right, I'm going to get us in the home stretch here. We will send the slides out because you've got links, resources, and information. And I'm about to give you the shock and awe part of this. And I don't expect you to retain the detail of it because there's a theme I want to hit. And then I just want to mention these things, and then we're going to follow up with them. Okay, so we'll get slides out. For our new faculty, we saw you at new faculty orientation, and somebody introduced the idea of when you start out as a faculty member here, it's drinking out of the fire hydrant. So I hope you'll remember what I told you. Your job is to figure out where your classes are, teach your classes, find a good faculty peer to give you some insights, talk to your supervisor with questions. You will catch up on all of this, okay? So please focus right where that is. And welcome to FSCJ. I mean that sincerely, y'all, okay. So we're going to continue a little bit with knowing our story. What I'm going to say is here comes chapter 2023. The fundamentals remain the same. At every time we've had academic plenary, I have said these, a vibrant academic culture, because I believe that's important for us to find meaning in our work. And I believe if we take care of our faculty and those who support our faculty, that is the #1 strategy for student success. So we want to have that vibrant academic culture. #2, high standards. Teach the students rigor and rapport. The standard is what the standard is. We're not lowering the standards, but we do have to set ourselves apart by developing rapport with our students, not doing the work for them, not getting soft on them, but that we are approachable. And we are always thinking about how can I get to you and reach you with this knowledge in a way that you can work with it, understand it. Wide fences, if you've got ideas, let's have ideas, let's see it, and a bias towards yes. We can't say yes to everything, but as much as we can, that's where I want to be as an academic institution. I mentioned before, going all the way back to 2016, many years ago, and I'm going to just show you one little piece of a slide. The very first time I got to address the academic body. And to set that up, what I want to say is that last year, the theme that I presented forward was that we were a test flight. And the case that I wanted to make is that we were getting better as an institution. We were getting better operationally. We were starting to see things kind of, come along a little bit. And I said, you know what, let the year be a test flight. What can we do? How can we put things, together? And I hope that today you've started to see some ways that things are coming together. And it's not just in individual areas, but they're weaving themselves together. And when I talked all the way back in 2016, this was the slide that I had. And the slide talked about people who are really optimistic. The glass is half full. Your pessimists or your skeptics, right? The glass is half empty. And then there were the cynics, right? This tastes like piss. And what I said, was, if you're an optimist, that is fantastic because we want to really grow that. But if you're a skeptic and you come by that honestly, that's absolutely fair and you have to be part of the conversation. And that still applies today. Dr. Woodward talked eloquently about the idea of academic freedom, about the idea of being able to disagree civilly and bring our points of view. You can't say it better than that. The part that worried me the most is, are people cynical? Has somebody reached the point where it's just like, I will show up, I will check the box, I will go. That was certainly part of what I felt was in the air in 2016. And people could come by that kind of honestly. I was so blown away with what we did, faculty, what y'all did in 2020 with that pandemic. I was blown away last year in the test flight year. We are moving in the right direction. I believe it, and I thank every one of you for the work that you are doing for that. And we got to keep talking about what we have to do to support you. So thank you. Fundamentals remain the same. I want to talk just a minute about, we talked a little bit about enrollment going up. What you see here is a graph where that bottom horizontal line, or that blue horizontal line, that's normed last year. That's saying whatever we had for enrollment going on last year, we'll just set it to a standard, right? We'll just set it flat there. And then the red line is saying for each day as we move month over month through the end of the spring into the summer, how did our enrollment in 2023 for fall, how did it compare to 2022? And when we opened, we were low. We were below the blue line. And then we took a dip. And I will be honest with you all. I believe in the work we're doing. I'm intrinsically optimistic. I had a dark night of the soul right there because I thought, what? I really feel like we're working, you know, like what? And then slowly that turned around and it started to move up, and that red line is where we are today. So this morning, Rich Turner put out a report. It's 10.1%. It's great news. One of the big things that influences enrollment is just the air out there, you know. The economy can influence it. People have different ideas about things outside that we move it. But I also believe that we have taken steps internally that at least when a student is interested in coming to us, we're getting them through, we're getting them connected. And I was thinking today, all the stuff about tell your story, for every faculty member, for every member of FSCJ academics who talked about this issue for many, many years. People don't know. Why aren't we out there? I want to tell you, it takes time, but your voice matters. Your voice matters. There are many of you who said, essentially, why aren't we out telling our story? So I think it's great that we have our focus there, and I want to thank you all for, over time, bringing that to our attention. When you look at this graph, and the red line is where we are overall, it is the sum of the values that would be associated with the blue line and the green line. That blue line right there is telling you what is happening with students who are new to FSCJ. So the students on the blue line are students who have either never been to FSCJ before and they're just starting, or they've been at FSCJ and then they stopped out or dropped out. They were gone for over a year, which means they had to reapply to come back, okay? The green line is the students who are persisting with us term over term, year over year. And Cheryl's already clapping because she knows what I'm going to say. That retention, that rise in retention, that's the people in this room. There's a lot of wraparound that we do. Student Services is a great partner. Think back to Harvey Slentz when he was here and talked about the hours that you all sent. I deeply appreciate the effort you have put in to retain students, connect to students, and that communication plan, for those of you that worked on that and you talked to students about it, thank you. We believe it is making a difference. Wide open to additional ideas, but I want you to understand that enrollment isn't just growing because people are coming in the door new. Enrollment is also growing. There's a big chunk of it that's growing because students are staying here longer, and that's going to pay off in completions in the front. Oh, I missed part of the thing. For writing a chapter, you probably already got it, right? Maybe. The themes, right? For those of you who are teaching literature, here's what I remember. The characters. FSCJ academics, we're a character. Our community out there is a character. The state of Florida is a character. Talked to Dr. Woodward. And FSCJ students, as I just talked about, enrolling here. Those are the characters that are coming in our story. The setting, Dr. A touched on that. All these sites, expanding online presence. We're out of the naval bases. We've got a ton of dual enrollment, internship and practicum partners, and we are continuing to increase what we're doing in a customized way out in the community. So the setting is big, it's vast, and a lot of it is virtual. This is the shock and awe. Just bear with me. There is a lot going on this year. A lot. And here comes some of it. But before I start, what I want to say to you is that the main thing I want to ask you to reflect on, the time before we start school, the first couple of weeks of school, is what is your vision for advancing our story? What is your vision to be better at the work you're doing, or to make a contribution that makes the college better at it is doing? Please think about that, because that's what's really making this go. Our mission is always about delivering effective instruction. We love acronyms here. Delivering effective instruction is DE, I can't say that. I'm being clever. DEI. Elephant in the room. I stand where I stood before. There are tremendous inequities in our society and in the outcomes that our students are reaching. Our response cannot be to alter our standards and do those kinds of things, but we do have a responsibility to educate our entire community. And that's important. That is not changing. We need to keep some focus there. So effective instruction is instruction that meets the student where they're at, and that includes a lot of things. That includes a lot of things, meeting students where they are at. What I want to say to you on this issue is please, 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 teach your curriculum creatively and courageously. I always thought of teaching as a kind of a heroic effort because I believe there's something noble about doing it. I never thought about teaching as having to be something that is courageous, but it's calling on people to be courageous. And I encourage you to do that. These ideas and the legislation that's out there, it's real, okay? But I have every confidence that if we are teaching our curriculum as it is, we're going to be just fine. That we can engage in inquiry and we're going to be fine. But I want to take just a little twist on that. One of the issues that came up in the past year had to do with some textbooks. And without getting into the whole story, I will tell you this. I could tell a faculty member until I'm blue in the face that a sociology textbook that mentions critical race theory as one of a number of perspectives that social scientists are using to examine various sociological issues is not problematic because it's just informing people there's a perspective out there. The problem is when I say that, a faculty member would say, that's easy for you to say, buddy, because when somebody says, I've got critical race theory in my course, well, there it is. Again, I think we teach ourselves, we teach the way you know how to the curriculum, we're fine. But here's an additional concern I have. People that I respect and that love you faculty as colleagues, I've had some conversations with them, and the conversation takes the form of this. John, I want to let you know that my colleagues are experiencing. Hey, I want to let you know there's a faculty member who is concerned about teaching this particular author. And what's hard about that is I realize this stuff is scary enough to people that they don't even want to raise their hand. When it all began the day after, Dr. A one time said, how is this stuff going, And I said, I can tell people are concerned about this. And the reason I can tell is, if the air is out, I get 1,000 emails, because that's important. That's important. On this topic, I don't get any emails. People are like, I'm not writing down anything about that stuff. I understand it's a big deal. I want to make sure that we are addressing the possibility that this is weighing on people. One of the most impactful conversations I had was with a faculty member who said, you know what, this is my experience and I think it's some of my other colleagues' experiences. That set aside whether or not you agree with where the legislation is, et cetera, we absolutely will comply with the law. It's not a problem. But this person said, I feel devalued by this conversation. I feel heavy weighted by this conversation. I feel cast aside by this conversation. And what do you do about that? Because you're in a profession where the assumption is that maybe we're out there indoctrinating people. I don't have the answer for that, but one of the things that came to me out of that conversation is sometimes you just need to listen to people. And so over the course of the spring, I'm going to have at least 2, maybe 3, we'll see how they receive, in-person sessions where I want to come and just listen to people about their experiences, their concerns, yes, even their feelings. It's the psychology in me. Because I think that some of us need to have a dialogue in terms of how this is impacting us as professionals. Enough said there. Third thing, syllabus posting requirement. The legislature passed and signed into law this past session a requirement that 45 days before a semester begins, every one of your syllabi for courses you will be teaching in the upcoming term have to be posted online where students can access them. That's the real deal. That's the law. We will comply. We're inside of 45 days. I haven't asked you for a syllabus. What are we doing? Dr. Rich Turner through Academic Operations, and Audrey will read all of your emails from now on, Rich. Dr. Rich Turner in Academic Operations working with Patrick Krug in IT. They have put together a portal where we'll be able to ask you to upload syllabi where what it's going to do is, we have the submit to your dean process. It's going to take that syllabus and get it up there. For the fall, what we have done is we have gone back and we have taken a prior course syllabus that you taught and said this is a reasonable approximation of what it is. So we'll talk more about how we get this all done, but we had a bang-bang situation from the legislature. So more to come on that issue and, of course, some discussion about it. General education legislation. This past session, the legislature passed and the governor signed a law that is going to require a statewide review of general education. And what is going to happen is the state university system and the Florida college system are going to have to get together, and on state core courses, they are going to begin to review what is in, what is out in terms of courses. If you're an institution that has a course that not a lot of other places are teaching, they're going to tell us you can't have that course as a core course in your general education. We did put in names from liberal arts and sciences before Dr. Newhard left. I never heard anything back from the state, so I don't know if we're represented on these committees or not, but we will continue to see information. John? So we have 3 faculty then who are on as well. A 4th? Okay, so we are represented at the state level. We'll be part of that conversation. So more to come at that, and I'm very excited because one of my goals is to make sure at FSCJ we're in the statewide conversations. Evaluating and recognizing contributions. I have leaned on academic administrators and deans to say, you know what, there's a clause in the continuing collective bargaining agreement that says at the beginning of a year, the supervising administrator and the faculty are going to look and they're going to say, what are the expectations outside of what classroom teaching is? And I've said, we want to make sure there's some equity here. Because sometimes something that I hear from a really motivated and involved faculty member is, once in a while, I love my work, but once in a while I look out and I look up and down the hall and I'm like, why am I the person, there are some amens that, I'm picking up. I'm the first person, and you know how it goes. If you're looking for a faculty member to do something, you don't talk to the faculty member that you've never asked over the past 9 years to do something. You go to the person you know is going to say yes. It's not equitable. So I have leaned on academic administrators to say, I want those conferences to happen. I want to have that discussion. What I want to say right here, though, is this is not a make sure everybody's on 9 committees. This is not a make sure everybody is counting hours and they have to do. Let me put it this way because this is a concrete way that it comes up. If you are teaching a ton of overloads, I don't expect that you're doing a ton of committees. And you're already using your professional time in an important way. I still want you involved in the life of the college, but it's certainly going to be in ways that are less demanding and time consuming. If you're new to the college, we're going to figure out some places where do I go, it's new. And this is not meant to be at all, and it will not be a bean counting operation, but we've got to talk about making sure everybody's engaged and everybody's rowing. Speaking of which, it's not fair if we're just checking on how faculty are doing with being engaged and enrolling. So this fall, I'm going to roll out a upward-looking survey. And in this upward-looking survey, you're going to get 10 questions about the person who supervises you. I'm going to ask you to respond to those questions. It's going to go back to that person so they have the information. I'm asking those people to share that with their supervisors so we can start to understand. We all have things to fine-tune. And for me, an upward-looking survey means that faculty will be asked, deans will be asked, IPMs will be asked, department chairs will be asked, and my team will be asked. We all need to know what that feedback is. I really want us just to make sure we're watching each other, and not in a punitive way, but in a way that says we're all on the same team. Let's see how we're doing. We'll see how that goes this year. Dr. A has a number of institutional goals this year. One of them is called College for Kids. A long time ago at FSCJ, remember we used to, in the summer, run summer camps all over the place, every which way, right? And that kind of evaporated. It's coming back, summer camps. But it's coming back strategically in the way of thinking, hey, besides just bringing people here for camps, let's bring people here so that they and their parents are starting to learn about our story, which makes it more likely that they'll come. There's a method to the madness. You'll hear more about that. If it interests you, I ask you to raise your hand and get involved when we get to that point. We've talked about the SACS Commission on Colleges reaffirmation that's coming. A lot of that work is in the bag, but not all of it, and we need everybody to do their part, knowing about the QEP, knowing about the mission and those kinds of things. Dr. Deb Fontaine asked me heading into the summer, hey, do you have an academic plan? In other words, like we just did the 5-year facilities plan. So we've got program review, and thank you for all of you who participate in that. But the academic plan is saying, in 5 years, Dr. Sees-Wolves was talking about the work that Dr. Litt is leading to look at what are we going to do in terms of programmatically in AI. An academic plan is, hey, the world is always changing. Where do we think we're going in 5 years, et cetera? So I worked with the team, my team, a little bit over the back end of the summer to begin that. We're going to put up a framework together, and then, of course, we are coming to you, the faculty and everybody in academic affairs, to have a talk about what that vision is. So that's something that we'll work on this year. And as for the critique that at FSCJ we start stuff and then we walk away from it and leave it, guided pathways, we didn't talk about it at all today because we had different focus, but it's still here. Pillars, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those pillars are ever more aligned with everything else that's happening with the college so that we're not having to, our work is going to be aligned, but we are going to continue to support the work of guided pathways, and you'll hear more about that as well. So just check in on that to let you know. This is the shock and awe version, okay? I don't expect you to have, but a lot of work to do. I know that we can all do it together. Story's got to have a conflict. What are we up against? We're not up against the people inside the college. We're not up against our community. We're not up against our students. We're up against a situation where we need to provide to people strong personal and professional development to students without depleting our personal and instructional resources in the face of multiple hurdles and constraints. That's what the conflict is. So a number of times today I've run into people, Dr. Lourdes Norman, welcome back. I saw Professor Daniel Powell. I get to see him once a year at convocation. And in both of those conversations, we had the same thing. We said, we need to connect. We need to connect. We need to connect. So in the idea of know your story, everybody knows our name. Do we know our story? I am asking you to help me understand what conversations do we need to be having? What do we need to be talking about? You've got some of my best guesses today through Plenary. In certain circles, the bard himself is out, Shakespeare, Somebody tell me the play, we've got to screw our courage to the sticking place. Where's that from? Oh, you guys, that's Macbeth, thank you. Lady Macbeth to Macbeth. We have got to take our courage and we've got to put it to where we are going. I'm very excited about where we're going. As we get out of here, it's not just know your story, we're about to write the next chapter. thank you all for everything that you do. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you and working with you in the year to come. Have a great day, a great weekend, and a great start to the year.